Did you mean to do that?
I did.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Everyone there joining us. We'll be getting started in a second.
And you can just go into the file and change your name if you'd like.
All right.
Was she gonna lie? Yeah, Richard needs to know that. Try to make the intro.
Yeah, I bet you.
She's on that since you can unmute her.
And she might need to co-host or something. You know, the flyer that you get for all the events. I think the lady said we got a.
Okay,
The
guys.
one with the webinar? Oh, okay, yeah. Making sure it's in the,
So why am I so large? Anybody monitoring questions and all that?
Yeah, it'll be, and I'm pretty sure Myra.
I am.
Thank you. I don't see. Arnesha is here.
Yeah.
Hey, Arnesha. All right, let's see if you can make sure you're unmuted. Good morning, Arnesha. Can you hear us?
Hey, Nikki.
Hey, I heard you. Let's make sure. Okay, did we lose Jayden?
All right, let's see. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Now I think we lost Jayden.
Okay, awesome.
No, we didn't. Jayden is here. You don't see him?
There he goes.
All right, thank you.
where's the video?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
It's 12 o'clock.
Okay. Just one. Jayden's on.
And can you put that in presentation mode and not the presenter view? Go to the three dots.
Is that what? How's that?
No, that's the, there we go.
Okay. Okay, guys, so I don't do this very often, so you gotta give me a little grace with the navigation here of the GoToWebinar. But I think I have enough help around me that we can get through this. We have some great speakers here with us today, but before we get started with them and turn things over to them, I'd just like to make a few quick announcements. My name is Richard Brooks. I'm an alternative finance specialist. I've been doing business funding since 2010. Typically what I do is asset-based lending. I have a background in corporate finance and again, been doing asset-based lending since 2010. Through my company, Progenics Financial Group, I can help you with equipment financing, purchase order financing, accounts receivables financing, and merchant cash advances, which I don't recommend. So I'm just letting you know. All right, next, I'm the president of GOV'T Capital as well. Through GOV'T Capital, I help government contractors secure mobilization funding. Education-wise, I went to the University of Michigan, I went to Emory, and I was a state of Georgia employee for 7 years. So from a contracting perspective, I've seen contracting from the other side of the table. All right, enough about me. Just want to mention a few upcoming GCA events. Tomorrow morning, we'll be having a presentation, Expanding Your Business with Government Contracting. For those of you who would like to learn more about what it's all about, this is a great place to start. And it's tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and you can find the details on our website and register on our website. Actually, you can go to GOV'T.com, and that's tomorrow. And that's a free event. And also, we have our association mixer coming up next week on Tuesday, April 14th. This is an evening event, and it will be streamed. And we will be presenting Mr. Quentin O'Neill with the Atlanta Public Schools, and he will be talking about the opportunities to contract with the Atlanta Public School system. And it's a great way to establish a connection with someone and get the details about what their focus is now, learn where to register, and just see where you can fit within contracting with the Atlanta Public School system. Again, that event is an evening event. It starts at 6 p.m. It's free for members and $15 for guests. And again, you can go to govevent.com to register. And for today's discussion, we are focusing on providing business owners information about the various business assistance programs made available in response to COVID-19. We'll be talking about the business assessment, the various programs available, how to determine if you're eligible for the various programs, the different terms you might encounter for loans, and then how to apply, and various other things. And to help with this discussion, we have two guest speakers today. They are Jayden Doye. He's a CPA with Prestige Accounting Solutions and a member of GCA. He is very dynamic and has done a great job of tracking what's going on with all the different loans out there, and looking forward to hearing him give an update. And we also have Arnesha Bobo, CFO. She's with Bossy Books Consulting, and she is going to help us complete the picture and provide additional information. And if you need a CPA, need a great bookkeeper, need someone to provide additional consulting for your business, these are two great people to have in mind. And Jayden's originally from DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and he moved to Atlanta back in 2014. After years of working for various accounting roles, Jayden started his own firm, Prestige Accounting Solutions, and he obtained the CPA licensure last year, and has been increasing, and through that increased his knowledge and credibility. Today, Jayden helps entrepreneurs bring more to their bottom line and pay less in taxes through effective tax planning. There's more about him there, but I want him to speak more to what he does, and I'm sure it'll come out in this discussion. And of course, we have Arnesha Bobo. And as your small business CFO and strategic partner, she works with small business owners to create a full scope of finance strategy. She focuses on reducing costs, increasing profits, and creating a profitable growth plan. And she doesn't talk about how long she's been doing this, but she has 10 years of accounting and finance experience that she's bringing to the table. And again, I'll let her talk more about what she can do for you as a client. And with that, I'd like to turn the presentation, the discussion over to them and hear them as they come. And we'll open the presentation up for questions and answers towards the end. So jot down your questions. Let's let them get through their presentation first, and then we can address any specific concerns you may have out there. First, a disclaimer, I guess. None of the information provided herein, it's only provided for informational purposes and not for the purpose of providing accounting services or consulting services. Use this information as a basis for seeking out additional information. In us providing this information to you, we are not establishing a professional client relationship. Neither GCA, Prestige Accounting, or Bossy Books Consulting shall be liable as a result of any inaccurate or incomplete information posted herein, and therefore all information should be independently verified before it is relied upon. Okay, now, Jayden, Arnesha, are you there?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thank you
I'm
for
here.
everything.
Awesome.
Introduction.
Take it over. Anything you need me to cover before you get started?
No, I think we'll take it from here.
Awesome.
All right,
So,
good morning,
ladies,
everyone. I'm Arnesha Bobo, small business CFO, as Richard stated earlier. I am the founder and CEO of Bossy Books Consulting, and most importantly, I focus on helping small businesses gain visibility on their business finances. So today, Jayden and I, and he'll introduce himself, we're going to be focusing on trying to clear up any misconception about all the misinformation that's out there in the social media world, on Facebook, in the news, about what's going on with all of the funding that's available, what you need to know before you apply, and then what happens after you apply. Jayden, you want to add to that?
Nope, I think you covered it.
All right, awesome. So we're going to start the presentation off with your current business assessment. So right now, with everything that's going on, where are you right now in business? Have you had to shut down due to the city or state ordinances? Have you laid off staff? Did your operations stop? Like, where are you right now? We need to assess where you are right now. With that assessment, also we need to determine financially where you are. How liquid are you? Do you have any cash reserves in the bank? Do you have any available credit on your either business credit cards, your lines of credit, and available cash? Like, where are you money-wise? So how liquid are you? What are we working with over the next 90 days? Okay, from a cash perspective. Also, what's due now? What are your liabilities? Are you backed up with payroll? Do you have any taxes due? Do you have any anything outstanding? Mortgages, utilities, rents, is your internet paid? Like, where are you? What's outstanding? And so allowing us to assess that, that helps us determine how much working capital you need right now. And that's something that both Jayden and I can help you do. But as a business, like, part of that assessment, again, is understanding where you are, how much you have in the bank, how liquid are you, and then what are your liabilities over the next 90 days? Because we don't know what's going on with this virus. We don't know how much longer we're going to be shut down. And so we need real numbers. We don't need guesses. We don't need any made up number that you can pull out of the air. We need hardcore, real financial data on assessing where you are right now. Are we controlling the slides, or is that you, Richard?
That's me. I got you.
Okay. All right, so with all the funding that's available, there's funding available in the form of both loans and grants. A portion of some of the loans convert into a grant depending on if you meet those requirements. So helping us kind of start off, where are you, how is your business eligible for the actual funding? So we're gonna walk you through an eligibility kind of process on, you know, what's available, what's not, how do you get there and determine your eligibility. So first things first, do you meet the requirements, right? Again, every type of funding has a different level of requirements. Essentially, which we're going to talk about these financial statements, do you have the business documents that are needed to apply for all of the funding, okay? So, hang on. For each program, I'm going to try to talk about a couple of them without taking up too much of the time. But for instance, with the payroll protection program, you have to have under 500 employees, which most small businesses fall into that realm, right? Up to a certain amount of money and revenue. And I think my other screen is freezing, guys, sorry. Come on, my internet was working fine yesterday.
I can pick up on some of the documents that are needed to include with your application. Some things that you'll need to include are payroll documentation. So those are your 941 quarterly payroll reports, your 940 annual payroll reports. And honestly, I would also include the any W-2s and 1099s. And this serves two purposes. It shows the payroll information so that you can prove that your company actually has payroll or 1099s. And it also certifies that your employees live in the United States, because that's one of the requirements, that your employees live in the United States. They'll also need your driver's license, your articles of incorporation or organization, SBA Form 1919, and a 12-month profit and loss statement. Your mortgage statement or rental lease, depending on if you own or rent the building that you're in, and any business utility bills. Since you can use the funds for utilities and payroll, they want to see those expenses to verify the validity of you getting this money.
Awesome, thank you. The other documents that you'll need, you can stay on this screen, Richard. The most important documents, as I stated, are your financial statements, your profit and loss statement that reports all of your revenue and expenses, your balance sheet that reports all of your assets, liability, and equity, and then your cash flow statements. The reason why you need these, so, I'm sorry, say that again.
Are you talking about a specific program or just in general?
No, just in general. And the reason why I'm saying just in general is because for all of and this is from me working with my clients on multiple, because I've been helping my clients apply for the funding, all of the requirements are consistent. You need to know your total revenue for 2019. You need to know your total operating expenses for 2019, and you also need to know your total cost of goods sold or your cost of sale. So consistently across the board, whether it's a loan or a grant, whether it's the business fund, which we'll talk about what all the options are available, they're asking for the same information. And if we were not going through this whole virus situation and trying to apply for loan as a business owner, whether you're in the government space or if you're in real estate, when you go to apply for funding, it's the very similar format. So these processes are not new. It's just people are new to the process and applying for funding to help their businesses remain afloat. Okay, and I didn't check is anyone catching the questions in the chat? Because I'm sure we're going to get some, but I just wanted to make sure that I emphasize the financial statements. And also, the taxes were delayed, but they're coming up. Like that, they weren't delayed, or like the deadline did not go away. So you're going to need this information anyway to report to the tax authorities, just to put that out there. So again, the information that's being requested, it isn't new. It's new to businesses who've never had to do this before, okay? All right, go to the next slide. All right, so one of the most popular programs right now is the Payroll Protection Program, the Payroll Protection Loan Program. And this program, it includes a $10,000, loan. And Jen, do you want to go more into the payroll protection loan?
Sure, I'll go ahead and talk about the Paycheck Protection Program. What a tongue twister. Try saying that 10 times, right?
Right.
So, long story short, there is a fund of about 349 billion in forgivable loans, and this is for small businesses to pay their employees through the coronavirus crisis. Basically, this is the way that the government is assisting in keeping people employed. So the loan can be used to cover payroll costs, mortgage interest, rent, and utilities, like we said before, over an 8-week period. And so after that 8 weeks, when you the bank does the certification to verify that the loan is forgivable, they're going to want to verify that you actually use the funds for these specific expenses. So make sure that you have great record keeping in regards to that. So with that, they use numbers based off of your previous payroll amounts, but the cost of the annual payroll per person is capped at $100,000 per employee. So pretty much what they do is they take there's on the application, there are certain periods in which you can elect to take the average payroll period for, because the government also recognizes that some businesses were not in business for the whole year of 2019. So there are certain other periods that you can use to calculate your annual payroll. So pretty much what they do is they take that annual payroll and they multiply it by 2.5, and then they add that $10,000 on there to assess what the anticipated loan is going to be. So the only problem with this is that the program was set to roll out on April 3rd, but there's been a lot of miscommunication between the SBA and the banks. And so honestly, it's up in the air. We're receiving new word almost every day, but where to apply is through your bank. You have to apply for this loan through an SBA loan provider. So what's happening is that because banks are being overwhelmed with application, they're really only assisting their clientele right now. So the SBA does provide a list of lenders that you can work with. If you go to sba.gov, you can find the list of lenders. But the first place to go would be your bank, whatever bank that your business banks with. That'll make the process easier. And as far as who can apply, all businesses can apply, including nonprofits, veteran organizations, sole proprietorship, self-employed individuals, independent contractors with 500 or fewer employees. And these are, as far as the independent contractors are concerned and the self-employed individuals, the date that we've been given as far as those applications to start is April 10th. So in 2 days, they will supposedly be accepting applications for the independent contractors. And unlike the normal SBA funding, where you're not able to have funds elsewhere, or they force you to apply elsewhere first, they want to see denials. In this program, that's not the case. All right, moving on to the next slide. In regards to how long the program is going to last, the program is going to be open up until June 30th, but we're encouraging business owners to apply as soon as you have everything together, because if you think about it, almost every business across the nation is going to be applying for this, and honestly, there's limited money. There's not enough money for everyone. That's just being realistic. So you want to be ahead of the line before that runs out. And you can only have one payroll protection program loan under this program. And we already stated what you can use the funds for.
So
Now, when it comes,
Jayden, what if you have more than one business?
if you have more than one business, I would recommend you have to assess which one you want to apply it for under, because if you get it under one business, if let's say you're a sole proprietorship, you own two businesses 100%. They're going to know that you already received a loan under this program under that business, your first business. So the likelihood of you getting another one is very unlikely. I wouldn't even recommend doing that. So I would assess running the numbers. It's really based off of the numbers.
And you're not allowed to consolidate the information, correct?
When you say consolidate, what exactly do you mean by that?
Combine both business payroll expenses and try to apply that way.
Nope, because they're going to ask for, not only are they going to ask for the payroll records, but they're also going to ask for the bank statements to match it. So, yep. So, which brings me to my next point as far as what counts as payroll. We have salaries, wages, commissions, tips, and employer benefits. That's something to think about. Not only the wages that you pay your employees, but also the health insurance, the family insurance, the group health care. All of those things are going to be added as far as payroll costs is concerned. There's also state and local tax that's added to the compensation amount that they're looking at. As far as how large it can be basically they're looking for, the anticipation is that you can pay 2 months worth of payroll plus an additional 25%, and it's capped at 10 million. Your loan.
Hey, Jayden, before you move on, we're getting some additional questions typed in online.
Okay.
One is, what if each business has two separate EINs? Could you apply them for each business?
Okay. So when you apply, they're going to ask for the ID of the owner. So it doesn't matter if it has two different IDs. What's going to happen is you can only accept one loan under this program. So, and you have to certify that in your application.
Second question, do commissions paid to independent contractors that work for my company count as payroll for the government payroll loan?
Yes, amounts paid to independent contractors, but you have to make sure that you have filed your 1099s. So a lot of people are operating their business incorrectly, and they are remitting 1099 payments to people, but they're not remitting the 1099s to the government. So now is the good time to make sure that you are doing things legit and making sure that it's being filed with the IRS. In addition to that, they're only going to use the amounts that are remitted to 1099 recipients that have a social security number, not an EIN. So if you are paying outside vendors, that amount does not count. And those businesses, because the government doesn't want that person to double dip.
And I've got a couple of questions, Jayden. This is Myra. And because I'm an organizer, I can't stick them in the chat, but can you elaborate about what you said earlier? It's like it's not a traditional SBA loan and that you have to get declined somewhere. Can you elaborate about what you meant there?
Yes. So under a traditional SBA requirements, you have to they first want you to apply elsewhere before getting funds from their loans, other services.
Mhm.
You know, they want you to at least apply for loans from other
Traditional
sources, other
funds,
banks and
right.
things of that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that requirement has been waived for this program.
Okay. And then follow up on that. Can you clarify what the max amount is? You said it's the annual payroll amount based on whichever factor is going to work to your benefit times 2.5 plus 10?
Yes, it's the average payroll
Okay.
times 2.5 plus
Mhm.
10,000. And on the
Okay.
application, there's an app there. You have an application and it indicates the periods in which I discussed. Also, there's a if you go, I believe it's on the SBA website. I believe that's where I got it from. But there's pretty much an Excel spreadsheet to help business owners as far as calculating the payroll costs for the periods in which they're going to use for that application to make it very easy for them.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. As far as forgiveness is concerned, if you did not use, if you took these funds and you went and bought a Gucci belt and red bottoms and a Balenciaga bag and a Birkin bag, you will owe that money back to SBA. These funds are to be used for payroll costs, mortgage interest, rent, utilities for 8 weeks after getting the loan. So make sure that you are using these funds for that specifically in order to get that loan forgiven.
So I guess that answers the question that was asked of why is it called a loan if it'll be void or forgiven? Because some people ain't gonna do right.
Right. So it's originally it's a loan. However, you know, because it does have that element of being forgiven, then it turns into a grant.
Okay.
Yep. And
So just a quick clarification. At one point, they were requesting information for February 2019 through January 2020. They're now taking information for 2019, 12 months 2019.
when you say requesting information, what information are you talking about exactly?
Like your cost of goods sold, your payroll numbers, your revenue. They were requesting the totals for that period, the 12 months starting February 2019.
Are you sure you're not talking about the EIDL?
I think I am.
Okay. Well, I
But
think
I
that
was
is
speaking
next.
generally.
I believe that's
So
Go on.
we can move on, I think. Next slide. Oh, there are some more questions. Okay. So when is the loan due? You have 2 years and there's no prepayment penalties or fees if in fact it's not forgivable and it is a loan for you. And there's no collateral required, which is great. And there's no personal guarantee. However, they are going to do a credit check. I believe both programs do a credit check. And if you use the funds for fraudulent purposes, then you will be charged by the US government. And the US government is not someone you want to be charged with the federal crime from.
Do the information requirements change if you're a solopreneur or self-employed?
I would say everyone's application and packet is going to be a little different. So, you know, whether they have 1099s or W-2s, it's going to be different for everyone. But in general, the list that I gave you are the documents that you need.
Okay, here's a little bit more interesting question here. So if I rehire the independent contractor as an employee after approval for the PPP loan, will the payroll costs be forgiven?
So, technically, that person wasn't hired right? So the rehiring would only be if you had an employee before that you let go and then brought them back in. Then that's when you would use rehiring. But if you stopped work with an independent contractor and then hired them on as an employee, then technically you have used the funds for, and you've used those funds for payroll, then yes, it would count towards the payroll cost and it should be forgiven.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
I also want to touch base really quickly on the rehiring, because realistically, who knows when the funds will actually be distributed. So there are businesses that have furloughed employees temporarily. So with that, if you do let somebody, if you have let somebody go, or you will let somebody go this week, you have until June 30th to restore that full-time employee and the sal and their at the salary that they were before, and you have to make any changes based off of that period between February 15th and April 26th.
Okay. Now, as far as qualifications for the loan, I know you said that you don't need to pledge collateral or personally guarantee the loan. How stringently are they looking at credit? Is it like a traditional walk into the bank SBA loan prior to COVID-19 credit requirements, or are they relaxing some of those?
Well, they haven't honestly given us much guidance on that, but from what I've been heard, it's in the talks that they're pretty lenient on that because they want this process to be as streamlined as possible. But with that, they want to make sure that your business is legitimate and that you have legitimate payroll, which is why they are doing their due diligence through asking, getting all of the documentation. So if you
Okay.
have a credit score of 500, don't let that stop you from applying.
Okay. Next slide.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to talk about the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. This is a low-cost federal disaster loan that is to be used for the working capital, which I covered earlier, the working capital for your company. Who is this? Who can apply? So your governor has to declare your state a state of emergency. So the declaration comes from your governor. So when you log into the SBA portal and you apply for, you begin the application process, and I've walked through this process before, you have to select your state. So if you select your state, and then it'll list all the declarations under your state. When this loan was first released, I think 2 Fridays ago, I was up for probably 10 hours trying to get these applications in for my clients. Issue is the portal wasn't accepting all the declarations because the portal wasn't ready to. And so over the last couple of weeks, they've been updating it. A lot of changes have been made, but before you apply for the loan, you have to check the declaration first. And like Jayden and I have been saying throughout the webinar, we are receiving changes daily. So what applied Friday probably does not apply today. So all the information is changing, and we are working diligently to make sure we're trying to keep up with all of these changes. But anyway, going back to who can apply. So this, any business, small business with under 500 employees can apply for this loan. You're eligible for this loan, including sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed businesses, and nonprofit organizations, as well as veteran organizations that have been affected by COVID-19. So those are the people who can apply. When to submit, I would say as soon as possible. Again, go to SBA.gov and create an account. If you have an account, log in and you can apply online. what information is required to apply. Again, when you log into the portal, it's going to ask you, you have to know your business entity information. So the business name, you need your EIN, date of establishment, I'm going off of memory, your total revenue for 2019, which comes from your P&L statement, your total operating expenses for 2019, which comes from your P&L, and your total cost of goods sold or cost of sale, which also comes from your P&L. So that's why we're saying your financial statements are really important to have, because it already has, it reports all of the financial information for your company. How much is this loan for? So this loan offers up to $2 million of assistance for each entity who are experiencing the loss. What can these loans be used for? Goes back to that working capital. So your payroll, your rent, your mortgages, and any interest that's outstanding, okay? What are the terms of the loan? So this is a low interest rate loan for small businesses at 3.75%, and for nonprofits, it's 2.75%. The terms are case by case. We're still waiting for more of a standardized term repayment, but it's going to be, I think the maximum is 30 years, up to 30 years. But again, it's case by case. The EIDL also includes that we can apply for the $10,000 loan advance, and it gives you the option where you're filling out the application. So I would suggest you definitely click yes if your operations have been affected by the virus, okay? That $10,000 can go a long way in your business right now. Again, that can go to your payroll, bringing those people back on to get in operations to continue to make money. It can help you pivot or reposition your company, which we're going to talk about in the end, but I definitely recommend applying for it, okay? Next slide, please. Is there any other form of assistance offered? Yes. Areas eligible for SBA loan disaster. So any other form, are there any other forms of assistance offered? Yes, there are. So outside of the PPP, the Payroll Protection Loan Program, and the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, try to say all that at the same time, there are a ton of other businesses and corporations and programs that are stepping up. Facebook has a small business grant loan. JP Morgan has a grant. They got $50 million. Bloomberg Philanthropies has stepped up, and I think they're offering $20 million. I saw it yesterday. Check with your local resources. The city of Atlanta is giving out $7 million. It's broken up into multiple funds. One of those funds being with Invest Atlanta, their business continuity fund. So check out them. So there are both, there's federal aid, and then there's the state aid, and there's also city local aid. So yes, there are a ton of resources available. I've actually compiled a list of resources on my website that my team and I are updating. So just look for a centralized resource of what's happening. Again, we're receiving changes in offerings daily. So like Jayden stated as well, the funding is going to run out because only so many buckets have money. Wells Fargo, if you all have noticed, they closed their application process. One of my clients, we received the email yesterday saying that they could not process, and we applied on the first day. But we also received the email yesterday stating that they closed the application process. Our application had not been reviewed, but it's in their queue of the rest of the applications. So Jayden mentioned a little while ago, apply as fast as you can, as soon as you have all of your documents.
So Arnesha, I have one question applicable to the EIDL loan.
Okay.
So it's back to the multiple businesses. If we have more than one business, can we apply for the EIDL for each business?
For this particular loan, I believe the process is similar. Let me confirm that and get back to you. But the logic is, if you have the separate entities with the different EINs, even if they have different EINs, the owner is still like connected to that assistance. So I don't think so, but let me confirm. I'll circle back to you and confirm that.
Okay, and the other question we have here is, what is your website where they can find the list of resources?
www.bossybooks, BAUSYBOOKS.com/coronavirus. So there's a link to the CDC. I'm sorry, say that again.
I was just mentioning that GCA is maintaining a list of resources on its website as well at govassociation.org.
Okay.
And I have a question for you, Arnesha. You know,
Okay.
you talked about the EIDL loan, and then there's the PPP loan. And, you know, both of you have mentioned that if there's multiple businesses, but a single owner that's affiliated with both, then you can't necessarily apply for the same. But I understand that one business can apply for both programs, right? The PPP and the EIDL, as long as they're used for two distinct purposes. Is that correct?
Yes, you can apply for both.
Okay, so in that scenario where, because we've got apparently a lot of multiple business owners on the phone, can one business apply for one loan and another business of theirs apply for the other loan?
That's what I need to confirm, because the guidance that we've received does not draw a definite line. There is some
Okay.
gray area that has not been properly communicated to us as the users and the application requesters, but there's a fuzzy line. So because I know there's a gray area, I don't want to say yes or no. I'm going to say,
Okay.
let me circle back.
Gotcha. And Arnesha's website was Bossy Books. That's BAUSYBOOKS/coronavirus. That was one of the other questions.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
And then one more. Oh, there we go. If you could go to the next slide, that's what I was gonna emphasize again. These other programs. The first question on the previous slide was, are there any other resources? Yes, and businesses are stepping up. So these are grants and loans as well. Again, you're gonna need the same consistent information across the board, and these loans are to be used for payroll, utilities, your rent or mortgage, interest, any outstanding, like your fixed debts. That's what this information, this assistance is to be used for. Like Jane said, you can't go on a shopping spree. That's not what this is for. This assistance is to help you get back on your feet and back in operations if you've been shut down. So whether you're applying for a grant or a loan that converts into a grant, you are going to need the same consistent information across the board. I'll list them one more time. That information is your business entity information. That includes your EIN and start date. You also need your financial statements, okay? You're gonna need your 2019 total revenue, your 2019 operating expenses, your 2019 cost of goods or cost of sale. You're also going to need your payroll information, your 941 payroll taxes, your driver's license, your articles of incorporation, and the statements that go with, like your mortgage statement, your utility bill, your rental lease. You need that information because those are supporting documents for these amounts that you are entering into the system, okay?
One quick question here, Arnesha.
Okay.
Is the EIDL loan forgiven as well?
Say that, I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Is the economic impact disaster loan forgiven?
A portion of it is. if you meet the requirements for the working capital portion, which are it's the payroll, the rent, if you're using this to pay employees, to pay your rent, to pay your utilities. So a portion of it is.
Okay. All right, next slide.
All right, Jane, you want to hop in for the IRS portion and everything related to the taxes?
Yes, thank you. So outside of the SBA loan programs, the IRS has also made quite a few changes given everything that's going on. And one of them is the employee retention credit. And there are some paid leave credits. So let's start with the employee retention credit. So with the program, qualifying employers, they have to fall into one of two categories. Either the employer business is fully or partially suspended by government due to COVID-19 during this calendar year, or the employer's gross receipts fall below 50% of the comparable quarter in 2019. Once the employer's gross receipts go above 80% of a comparable quarter of 2019, they no longer qualify after the end of that quarter. So, long story short, if you compare your Q2 financials for 2020 and you compare that to Q2 of 2019, and in 2019 you had $100,000 in gross receipts, and in 2020 you only had $20,000 in gross receipts, you fall below that 50%, therefore you qualify. So how they calculate the credit, basically the amount of the credit is 50% of qualifying wages paid up to $10,000 in total. So wages paid after March 12th and March 12th of this year and before January 1st of last year are eligible for the credit. And wages are, the stuff that's taken into account for that include cash payments. And
What are those time frames? Oh, I'm sorry. What are those time frames again for the wages?
March 12th, 2020 through January 1st, 2021. And also includes the employer's portion of healthcare. So if you have less than 100 employees, which I'm assuming everyone on this call has, then the credit is based on wages paid to all employees, whether if they worked or not. So if the employees work full-time and they were paid for full-time work, the employer still receives the credit.
And how much is the credit? And is it only applicable if I furloughed people as a result of this, but then hire them back? Can I get the credit?
Yep, because those wages that you paid between March 12th and March 21st still falls below. As long the first step is to make sure that you qualify.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next step is to count the wages. Then you calculate the credit.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. So if you are an eligible employer, you can, according to the IRS, be immediately reimbursed for the credit by first reducing the required payroll deposits. So as an employer, you're required to either pay monthly or quarterly deposits on your payroll taxes, depending on how much your payroll is. And how much, it's based off of your payroll tax liability. That determines if you're a monthly payer or a quarterly payer. So with that, the IRS is saying, instead of paying us, that money that you would pay us, go on ahead and hold that. Now, if you were to hold that, and if you held back those deposits and you're still due a refund, then what you can do is you can request an advance on that payroll credit. And to do that, you have to submit Form 7200 to the IRS. And with the 7200, you can also use that form to request an advance on the sick and family leave credit. And we can go to the next slide.
Sure.
All right. Oh, well, maybe we should go back.
Yeah, go.
All right. So with the family and leave credit, pretty much, with that, I don't know if everyone knows, but there was there's new guidance under FMLA. So pretty much the government is still expecting you to pay employees, right? So if you're paying employees but they're not able to work, then you can get a credit up to $200 a day for your employees, but it's capped at 2/3 of the employee's regular pay, and it maxes out to $10,000 per employee, and it's up to 10 weeks. And I know that's a lot of numbers, right? So if you need to review this information, what you're going to do is you're going to go to irs.gov/coronavirus, and all of the numbers are there. So basically, through this process, entrepreneurs are going to have to work with their accounting professionals to run the numbers to see what makes sense, because the thing about the payroll tax credits is that you are not going to be eligible for this if you get the payroll protection loan. So it's either one or the other. So some people, it benefits them more to do the payroll credits because they have extensive payroll in 2020, but they didn't have much payroll in 2019. So if you started your business in December and it was just you, and then February came around, business started booming, and you had 10 employees, then when you run the numbers, it's going to make sense to do more of the payroll credits so that you can keep employees, because when you keep employees, you keep high company morale. All right, and then now we're going to talk about repositioning your company, and I'll allow Arnesha to talk about that.
All right,
So-
so I know, oh, sorry, go ahead, Richard.
Just one quick question.
Mhm.
We were talking about a portion of the payroll loans being forgiven. Actually, it was the EIDL loans we were talking about. And someone asked a question to follow up on the last one. How would that portion be forgiven and what percentage? So when we're talking about forgiven, are we talking about 100% forgiven based upon what you calculate, or is it just a portion of that?
So for the EIDL, because your terms are going to be different than everyone else, it depends on if you meet the requirements of the loan. Because this is not a one-size-fits-all loan, a portion of it is going to be determined of what amount or the percentage that can be forgiven after you've been approved for the loan. So you'll receive that information after you've been approved for the loan. But because it's a case-by-case confirmation, we can't give you a generalized number. So I'm sure if you meet 100% of the requirements, then 100% of your loan could be forgiven. I'm not sure because we're not the lender. The guidance that we've received is it's case by case.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. So let's move on to another topic, repositioning your company. So we've both given you a lot of numbers to consider, a lot of other factors to consider. But once you've applied for the loan, or you've determined if you are eligible, or if you're ineligible, your company still needs a new game plan. For some businesses, they've been taken out of operations completely, and some of them cannot pivot. If you are a nail tech or if you're in the hair industry, right now you can't physically get to your clients, but you can pivot your operations temporarily. If you have not already gone into like the digital space or offered delivery services, now is the time for you to be able to add those type of services into your business. So first things first, where are your clients now? Where are they? Are they working from home? Are they homeschooling their children? Do they still have money available to spend with you? How can you reach them? Like, what value can you give to them right now? I'll use my hairstylist as an example. She's about 30 minutes south of me, but I still travel to her because she's great at what she does. But right now, I can't get to her. So I look all kinds of ways right now, but she's offering a wig service. And I talked to her before this got crazy, before we were into these shutdowns. I was like, hey, you need to think about what you want to do if we go on like a permanent lockdown. And so she expanded her wig service. So now she's delivering wigs to women. Trust me, there's some type of way you can pivot your operations. If you are a nail tech, can you teach your clients from home how to do their own like minimal work on their nails or some kind of maintenance until they can get to them? What you don't want to do is teach them how to be too independent of you. I like going to the nail salon. I'm not learning how to do my nails. This is not what I'm doing. But you may have a client base who needs that. Reach out to your clients. If you've serviced them before, you already have their phone number. You already have their email address. Reach out to them to see what type of service that you can do or provide to them. Okay, so pivot. Think about what value you can add to your clients right now. Secondly, decreasing your prices, it isn't necessary right now. That doesn't mean you have to go from charging $1,000 for a service down to $250, because you still have costs. It still costs you to operate your product or your service, okay? Instead of decreasing your price of your offering, diversify it, right? So going back to my hairstylist, instead of providing done for you hair services, now she can provide wig services, which includes like creating a brand new unit for you or servicing your old unit so that you can pop it back on and it's like brand new, right? For barbers, right? Men love their barbers. They're not going to leave them, so they're going to wait for them to open back up. But what type of maintenance can you teach your client base at home? So don't necessarily decrease your services, just diversify your offering of what you can offer to them. I saw a chef online post a very delicious meal because their restaurant closed, so they're kicking meals out of their house, but they're providing a delivery service. I would buy from them if they were in my area. So diversify your offerings, okay? And last but not least, don't decrease your goal. We all started this year out with a revenue goal, an expansion goal, a team building goal. Don't decrease your goal because of what's going on right now. This too shall pass, but change your action plan. The goal is still the same. If your goal was to make $100,000 this year, you can still do that. You just have to diversify your product and modify what you're doing right now so that you can reach your goal. So I want to make sure that everyone's very clear. Whether you get funding or not, there's still money to be made. There's still money in the market, okay? And that wraps up this repositioning your company. Do I have any questions for that?
No,
Nope. All right.
no
Okay.
question.
Awesome. All right. So seeking government contracts, and I'm going to kick this over to the GCA team, but most importantly, the government is still buying. There's still money to be made in all markets, but the largest customer in the world is still the largest customer in the world. Richard, can you and the GCA team go more in depth about seeking government contracts and the training that you all offer to help us get into the government space?
Definitely, definitely. So here at GCA, what we do is we prepare companies to go after government contracts. And if you think back to 2008, during the last recession, a lot of commercial business dried up and the government was still operating. And what you noticed was a lot of larger businesses, shifting focus on the government space. And we're seeing something similar now. In fact, this COVID-19 has created some opportunities for some businesses who are shifting gears, as Arnesha was saying, to sell to the government. Now, selling to the government isn't something you should consider willy-nilly. You need to have a plan for getting into the government space, and that's what GCA can show you. To sell to the government, you have to understand the language. You have to understand how to identify the opportunities. You have to understand how to position your company and how to promote your company. And you have to understand how to actually execute on a government contract. It's not just about doing the work. It's about doing the work in such a way that you stay in compliance with all the laws and regulations that are out there. So that's what we at GCA teach. And again, we'll be talking a little bit more about that tomorrow during our Gov 101 session. It's actually called Expanding Your Business in the Government Space. And we actually have a boot camp coming up later this month. And let's see, I don't think I have any of the details on that. What day is it? That'll be April 27th and 28th. Now, we've done our boot camps in different ways. We've had all-day boot camps. We've had two-day boot camps. And because we will be delivering online, we will be delivering the boot camp in two different sessions, once on the 27th and one on the 28th. And the time frame for those, it'll be in the evening from 6 o'clock to 8. So it'll be 2-hour sessions each time. I think that's what we're gearing for. And if you monitor our website, you will find all of the details and as far as how you can get involved with that. But in general, GCA would like to help you shift from the commercial segment to the government space. And we have the plans for doing that. So now I would like to open it up just for any last questions anyone might have. I see we have a question. How do you find subcontracting opportunities during this time? Okay, we have ways of doing that, and we can show you. I'd invite you back out for one of our presentations on government contracting, but because it's 1 o'clock and this particular presentation only lasts until 1, I'd like to make sure we keep it pertinent to this particular topic. So let's see, I'm checking for questions online. If you have any questions, type them into the space. And yes, Arnesha's website is BAUSYBooks.com. And
they can also schedule a free I offer free 15-minute consultation. So if they go to www.bossybooks.com/free review, it takes them to a form to set up a free 15-minute consultation with me.
And you can reach them via email. Their websites are on the screen. Their websites and email addresses are on the screen. Okay, if there are no other questions, I'd like to thank our guests for coming to help educate us about programs that can help businesses. And please reach out to them if you need additional assistance. Next week's webinar, we will get an update directly from Ed Carvalho of the SBA. as Arnesha mentioned, these programs are changing on a daily basis. And we would like to make sure that we keep on top of what's going on. So how best to keep aware of what's going on and speaking to the SBA. So join us next week, April 15th, again at 12 p.m.
Hi, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Goodbye, all. Thank you.
TJ Jewel wanted to know, are we hoping to get certifications for government contract?
Email them and let them know, yes.
TJ Jewel.